In this video, I'm going to go through some very important information for those of you faced with fertility challenges regarding glutathione and fertility. So what will be presented may outline a potential causative factor contributing to your infertility, and then clearly explain what can be done to rectify these circumstances. So this includes the following topics. So what is oxidative stress? How oxidative stress impacts male and female fertility. What is glutathione? How glutathione supports male and female fertility, and how to ensure your glutathione levels are optimized. But before we start, I want to thank Adeoye Oyowopo and his team. I hope I got that close. And his team of scientists for their review published in 2018 on the role of glutathione on oxidative stress and infertility. Their article truly comprises the backbone of the references and inspiration for this piece of mine. So what is oxidative stress? Oxidative stress or inflammation arises from an imbalance between reactive oxygen species, or ROS, and protective antioxidants. This affects the entire physiology of a human, but for our purposes here, can impose negative influences on the entire reproductive systems of men and women. So reactive oxygen species, or ROS, sometimes referred to as free radicals or collectively oxidative stress, are unstable molecules produced by normal body functions and exposure to external stressors and toxins. So more technically, examples of ROS in the body are hydrogen peroxide, superoxide, and the evil hydroxyl radical. So these little critters in excess can cause disruption to normal cellular function and can damage various parts of our cells. For our purpose, cell membranes, mitochondria, and DNA of the sperm, egg, and other reproductive organ tissues. Additionally, this becomes very problematic in regards to our health when fertility levels of ROS are continually compounded by things like overconsumption of sugar, use of oxidized vegetable oils like industrially produced vegetable oils, canola, soy, smoking anything, alcohol, exposure to environmental toxins like pollution, pesticides, plastics, personal care products, high or chronic emotional stress, circadian rhythm dysregulation or poor sleep, lack of exercise, infections, and lack of antioxidant intake. So these are the things that make oxidative stress compound and the problem that we're facing with fertility. So important note here that antioxidants are substances that can prevent or minimize oxidative stress and reduce the damage that they can inflict on cells, and that's where we'll get to glutathione being the master antioxidant. So how does oxidative stress impact fertility? Oxidative stress or inflammation influences oocytes or eggs, spermatozoa or sperm, embryos and their environments. More specifically, the reactive oxidative species or oxygen species, ROS, affect microenvironments associated with the fluid surrounding the egg, the fallopian tube fluid, and the abdominal fluid, and have a direct bearing on egg quality, the cell membranes, mitochondria, and DNA, sperm-egg interaction or fertilization, sperm-mediated egg activation, implantation, and early embryo development. So more specifically with male fertility, whereas low levels of reactive oxygen species, so low levels of oxidative stress, which could be homologous or similar to looking at hormetic stress like exercise or other necessary stresses that make us stronger. Low levels of ROS exert critical function on normal sperm physiology, such as fertilizing ability, acrosome reaction, hyperactivation, capacitation, and sperm motility. But research on male factor infertility demonstrates that sperm are vulnerable to high levels of reactive oxygen species. So high levels of oxidative stress are what causes the problems. More specifically, sperm are particularly vulnerable to ROS because their plasma membrane or their cell wall and cytoplasm, or fluid inside the cell, contain large amounts of polyunsaturated fatty acids. So we might know them better as omega-3, 6, DHA, EPA, and lippy fatty acid. Peroxidation or damage of the sperm membrane is the key mechanism of ROS-induced sperm damage, leading to fertility. So ROS, or oxidative stress, damages the fatty cell walls. This ROS sperm damage manifests in the following ways: a decrease in sperm motility due to mitochondrial damage, resulting in reduction of ATP or cellular energy, and damage to the actual tail of the sperm. A decrease in sperm viability, like how long they can remain alive. An increase in mid-piece morphology defects, which is the middle part of the sperm is comprised mostly of mitochondria, which produces energy to whip the tail so they can swim. Deleterious effects on sperm capacitation and acrosome reaction, aka the sperm's ability to fertilize the egg. Increased sperm DNA damage and apoptosis, or cell death, and could also contribute to birth defects. So it should be noted that almost all human ejaculate contains reactive oxygen species, or ROS, produced primarily from the above-mentioned lifestyle and environmental factors like consumption of sugars, oxidized vegetable oils, smoking, alcohol, exposure to toxins, high or chronic stress, poor sleep, lack of exercise, infections, lack of antioxidant intake, as well as from abnormally shaped sperm present. So meaning if there's a high percentage of abnormally shaped sperm or poor morphology, more technically, more reactive oxygen species, or ROS, will be present. And these days, most sperm samples contain a large percentage of abnormally shaped sperm. It's just a fact. Therefore, the overall impact on fertility that oxidative stress has is not a matter of if it's there or not, as mentioned earlier. Some oxidative stress is required for various reproductive physiological functions, but when our levels of ROS are too high or antioxidant levels are too low, it becomes pathological to sperm and the ability to get pregnant. So this is highlighted and will be discussed more later by research that has shown levels of antioxidants, including glutathione in seminal plasma from infertile men, is significantly lower than levels in fertile men. But moving on to female fertility, as with male fertility, oxidative stress or reactive oxygen species in the female reproductive system at low levels is important in the mediation of processes such as hormone signaling, egg maturation, folliculogenesis, fallopian tube function, proper function of hormones from the ovaries, changes in the uterine lining throughout the cycle, various functions throughout pregnancy, and the initiation of labor. But again, when ROS, or oxidative stress, reaches higher pathological levels, which is so common today, many problems arise, but are including the ones on this list, but are not limited to it, such as cell membrane damage, inhibition of protein growth or synthesis, mitochondria and ATP or cellular energy depletion, hydatidiform mole or molar pregnancies, fallopian tube issues, unexplained infertility, miscarriage, preeclampsia, which is high blood pressure in pregnancy, and birth defects. In addition, more specifically, excess reactive oxygen species in the follicular fluid can directly damage the egg. The DNA of eggs may be damaged, resulting in fertilization issues. Even when fertilization is achieved, oxidative stress or inflammation-induced apoptosis or cell death may result in embryo fragmentation, implantation failure, insufficient luteal hormone levels, miscarriage, impaired placenta development, inadequate growth of the uterine lining, which is obviously necessary for embryo development, and congenital abnormalities. More specific to reproductive conditions, in polycystic ovary syndrome, oxidative stress has been shown to be involved in mediating insulin resistance and androgen or male hormone increases, causing acne, hair growth, and inability to ovulate. It's also important to note that research on the abdominal fluid, which surrounds the ovaries in both fertile and infertile women, demonstrated that higher levels of ROS, or reactive oxygen species, were present in the fluid taken from patients with unexplained infertility. With endometriosis, the inflammation involved compounds the production of reactive oxygen species. Oxidative stress increases lesions and adhesions via the production of endothelial growth factor, which promotes angiogenesis, or blood vessel formation, to the endometriosis, which is how the body and endometriosis keeps itself alive. So one study even showed a difference in how gene expression of endometriosis tissue metabolizes glutathione. And we'll get a little bit more to that soon. So what is glutathione? So glutathione is the mother of all antioxidants, the master detoxifier, and the maestro of the immune system. I love that. Glutathione is a tripeptide made up of 3 amino acids: glutamic acid, cysteine, and glycine. Glutathione, or GSH, is an antioxidant in plants, animals, fungi, bacteria, and obviously humans. It's found in the cytosol, or cell fluid, and organelles inside the cell, including endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, and the nucleus. So moving on quickly from there, what does glutathione do? Most importantly, glutathione protects cells, i.e. sperm and egg, from damage due to ROS. Glutathione's many important functions in our body, but most importantly, it's the king or queen of antioxidants, which essentially means that it protects cells, egg, and sperm from damage due to ROS, such as lipid hydroperoxides, free radicals, turning them into alcohols, and hydrogen peroxide, turning it into water. Glutathione also plays a vital role in recycling other important antioxidants such as vitamin C and E, so their net protective effects are increased. Obviously, consequently, if we're not taking good care of ourselves, glutathione levels can be deficient, and with this, no doubt comes consequences. So let's unpack that a little more specifically. Glutathione is part of the glutathione system. The glutathione system comprises enzymes that synthesize glutathione within a cell, as well as dedicated enzymes that use glutathione as a means to exert their antioxidant effects. A little bit technical, but bear with me here. Within its role as the body's most important antioxidant to protect cells, glutathione is capable of preventing damage to important cellular components caused by the ROS, such as free radicals and peroxides, xenobiotics, basically anything toxic and foreign to the body, and heavy metals. Glutathione plays important roles in nutrient metabolism and regulation of cellular events, including proper gene methylation or expression of our genetics, or our genes, DNA and protein synthesis, cell proliferation or growth, cell apoptosis or regulated cell death, cellular communications, and immune response. As well, it's important in the process called protein glutathionation, which has several biological functions such as the regulation of metabolic pathways, calcium balance, remodeling of the cytoskeleton or structure of the cell, inflammation, and protein folding. Other vital roles of glutathione include many of these detailed functions are beyond the scope of this post or this article, but are worth mentioning here so that the true importance of and impact of glutathione is realized. So it's also essential in the delivery of B12 to cells. Dopamine and serotonin are feel-good and motivational neurotransmitters, and heart and blood vessel or endothelial health in conjunction with nitric oxide. So another important function of glutathione is its role in immune response and the potential positive impact on autoimmune issues, which are prevalent in fertility cases. Glutathione is involved in immune function via the regulation of cytokine production or cell-mediated immunity and genes that cause chronic inflammation. Finally, detoxification. Glutathione is our primary protector, and a large part of this job is defending us from environmental toxins, many of which can disrupt hormone levels, reproductive potential, and pregnancy. We're exposed to these toxins through contact with radiation, plastics, chemicals, pollution, molds, heavy metals, and pesticides. If glutathione levels are low, these toxins aren't efficiently removed from the body and can cause damage to cellular DNA, cell membranes, and mitochondria, which can result in an array of symptoms and disease that we just spoke to earlier, contributing to and also contribute to existing medical conditions such as infertility, and cause problems with pregnancy and the future health of the offspring. So glutathione deficiency, in general, glutathione appears to be reduced in elderly when compared to youthful controls, even if there's no apparent disease states. Fortunately, literature shows that proper supplementation can increase glutathione levels to those seen in youthful controls fairly rapidly. So, personally, I know through genetic testing that I have the SNP, or the single nucleotide polymorphism, RS105, 0450, and the CT allele on my GPX1 gene, which reduces my glutathione activity and therefore my ability to combat oxidative stress. So this, combined with results showing my selenium levels are being slightly low, which GPX, the gene, needs for proper functioning, dictate that it's important for me to supplement with selenium and glutathione. So I went in depth, found out that I actually require, not just could benefit from, but require glutathione and selenium. As mentioned earlier, if we're not taking good care of ourselves, glutathione levels can be deficient, and with this comes consequences. Glutathione deficiency contributes to oxidative stress and inflammation, which plays a key role in aging and the pathogenesis of many diseases, including but not limited to infertility, seizures, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, liver disease, cystic fibrosis, sickle cell anemia, HIV, cancer, heart attack, stroke, diabetes. Glutathione is important in almost every biological cellular function. So running a deficiency is obviously not favorable to overall human health. So moving on to glutathione and fertility. With everything mentioned so far, in a nutshell, glutathione can improve fertility by reducing the damage oxidative stress and inflammation can cause to the reproductive system. The body produces its own glutathione, but it's depleted by poor diet, pollution, toxins, medication, stress, trauma, aging, infections, radiation, and lack of antioxidants. And a deficiency of glutathione leads to increased oxidative stress and inflammation, resulting in issues with sperm, egg, their quality, fertilization, implantation, and embryo development. So more specifically, glutathione and male infertility. So remember, it's well understood that oxidative stress and inflammation interferes with normal sperm function via membrane lipid peroxidation, or the cell membrane fatty acid damage by free radicals, and fragmentation or damage to the nucleic acids, or the DNA, so DNA damage. So due to sperm's abundance of cell membrane polyunsaturated fatty acids, their own innate capacity to generate reactive oxygen species via the abnormally shaped sperm that we talked about before, which every sperm sample has plenty of, human sperm are highly susceptible to oxidative stress and inflammation. Therefore, if glutathione reduces oxidative stress and inflammation and resultant reactive oxygen species and their damage, glutathione therefore protects sperm. So I like it best the way, this is a little bit to chew on, but I like it best the way Lindsay et al., his group of researchers, said it in their paper, Rationale for Glutathione Therapy, published in the Oxford Journal Human Reproduction. They said, number one, sperm cell homeostasis, or aka healthy function, could be summed up as the balance between the sperm membrane levels of peroxidable substances, i.e. the amount of polyunsaturated fatty acids in the cell membranes, and the effectiveness of the battle between oxidative stress and antioxidants. If the oxidative stress wins the battle, sperm quality is affected. Number 2, main sources of reactive oxygen species in the genital tract are sperm themselves, which we talked about, from abnormally shaped sperm, typically measured in semen analysis and referred to as morphology. Essentially, and white blood cells, number 2, or B, leukocytes, white blood cells that are present during inflammatory processes, and ischemia or hypoxia or lack of oxygen during vascular or blood vessel issues such as a varicocele. Glutathione is in significant quantity in the seminal plasma, so the fluid that the sperm is in. Levels can be increased by systemic administration and concentrates in the seminal plasma where it can produce its physiologic and therapeutic roles, so where it can protect sperm. Increased, or aka glutathione, can be increased by systemic administration, and it shows up in the sperm. So increased epididymal levels of glutathione, so that's the epididymis is the part of the male reproductive tract where sperm final maturation occurs. So increased levels of glutathione in that tract can protect the sperm membrane, playing a protective role in sperm maturation. So anyway, let's move on to some research on glutathione and male fertility. So this section may be a little dry for some and essential for others, but I feel it's important to quickly go through some of the available research proving the connections between sperm quality, reactive oxygen species, and glutathione. So research published in Biomedical Central Urology Journal, a part of Springer Nature by Attig et al., that compared a group of 190 men with abnormal sperm parameters against a control group of fertile men with normal sperm parameters, revealed decreased seminal glutathione is implicated in low sperm quality samples. It should be noted that men with conditions that would cause inflammation, like varicoceles or genital tract infections, that used alcohol, smoked, or were currently taking antioxidants, were excluded from this study to create a more consistent baseline of existing oxidative stress and inflammation between the groups, so to make it more accurate in its results. This study also showed that the higher the measured levels of ROS, or oxidative stress, the more damage there was to sperm function. So lower glutathione in sperm and higher reactive oxygen species affecting sperm were further substantiated by Abe Darwaj et al. In the Asian Journal of Andrology, Hesham Nabil et al. In the Australian Journal of Basic and Applied Sciences, Agarwal A et al. In Fertility and Sterility, kind of the Bible of reproductive medicine journals. And many of the studies I'm about to discuss also corroborate these findings, but report other aspects of the relationship to glutathione and sperm. So Garrido N. et al. Published research in fertility and sterility that showed that intracellular, or inside the cell, intracellular glutathione concentrations are lower when severe sperm morphology is present. So this establishes the connections between high sperm morphology rates and high reactive oxygen species and the need for glutathione supplementation. Multiple studies by Lenzi et al., which we had already referred to, which is a research group in Italy, which were published in the Oxford Journal of Human Reproduction, the Frontiers in Bioscience, the Archives of Andrology, and Contraception journals, came to the following conclusions in regards to sperm oxidative stress, inflammation, and glutathione. Glutathione injections significantly improve forward motility and morphology due to its positive effect against ROS on the polyunsaturated fatty acids, or the fatty cell membranes that largely comprise sperm cell membranes. Crystal L. et al. Published in published a study in Fertility and Sterility confirming studies regarding ROS damage to sperm membranes, resulting in a negative impact on fertilization. They also found that ROS damage affected the nucleus of the sperm, causing DNA damage, which could be transmitted to the next generation and be responsible for increased disease and susceptibility in the offspring. That's important. So they found that reactive oxygen species, it's worth repeating, affected the nucleus of the cell, which caused DNA damage, which could be transmitted to the next generation and responsible for disease susceptibility in the children. So Kodama et al., also published in Fertility and Sterility, states very similar findings that DNA backbones are susceptible to oxidative stress, inflammation, and peroxidation of these structures can cause strand breaks and cross-linking of the DNA and result in disrupted transcription, translation, and DNA replication. So it's been suggested that damaged DNA of the sperm can be transmitted to the offspring and lead to increased incidence of miscarriage, fetal anomalies, and birth defects. They went on to show that treatment with vitamin C and glutathione reduced the level of a specific measure of DNA oxidative damage, which is very promising. Scientific reviews by a couple of people, including Hemachand and Shaha, published in the Federation of European Biomedical or Biochemical Societies Letters, which is a division of Wiley, and another group, Hansen and Deguchi, published in Acta Veterinaria Scandinavica, concluded that a glutathione deficiency can lead to instability of the sperm's midpiece, which contains the mitochondria and the ATP that's necessary for whipping the tail so it can swim, and which obviously results in defective motility. This conclusion is verified by research published by Ursini F. et al. In Science Journal. Research done by Sorensen M.B. et al., published in the journal Molecular Human Reproduction, which is a part of Oxford Academics, showed that when glutathione is present in extracellular space or outside the cell wall, so when glutathione is present outside of the cell, it's actually able to react directly with cytotoxic aldehydes, which is toxins to a cell, produced during oxidative stress, and thus protects sperm plasma membrane or the cell walls of the sperm. In other words, glutathione also protects the cell from the outside, not simply from the reactive oxygen species forming inside the cell. This was confirmed and elaborated on by Fafula Roman V. et al., who published research in the Journal of Human Reproductive Science that shows glutathione is not only important in protecting the sperm and improving motility and viability, but that the female reproductive tract contains extracellular glutathione, and if levels are adequate, would give sperm a survival advantage when the sperm's inside the female reproductive tract. So this is important, and it's a good segue into our next section, which is glutathione and female fertility. So again, diving into some of the available research. Stick with me here. First of all, an amazing scientific review on glutathione and fertility by Adoye et al., published in the Journal of Brazilian Assisted Reproduction, concluded that glutathione protects the egg in the same way it protects the sperm by shielding the eggs from damage caused by oxidative stress, inflammation, during folliculogenesis, which is the maturation of and growth of an egg, and therefore egg quality is dependent on it. So research done by McHurgy et al., published in the Journal of Assisted Reproduction and Genetics, concluded that eggs with higher levels of intracellular glutathione produce healthier and stronger embryos. They went on to state that glutathione can reduce oxidative stress and inflammation by fighting the formation of damaging free radicals in the reproductive system. Similar findings were reported by Gardnier et al. In the Biology of Reproduction. Glutathione is, it's just showing, again, it's the cell's primary antioxidant, and across the board, To put it bluntly, low levels of glutathione are a marker for a disease and premature death of the cell and the human, for that matter. Another study done by Vancouver et al. Published in the journal Aging, Clinical, and Experimental Research that in younger years, ovaries have a higher intracellular glutathione level. It's also been reported by Lim et al. Published in Cancer Research that glutathione deficiency is related to premature ovarian aging and even ovarian cancer. Research by Tola et al. Published in the journal Reproduction, Fertility, and Development found that women undergoing IVF, found that for women undergoing IVF, higher levels of glutathione in a woman's follicle translated into increased fertilization rates. The journal Reproductive Biology and Endocrinology published a scientific review by Fuji et al., which determined that glutathione is shown to be a powerful anti-aging antioxidant, which could have a possible impact on egg health, one of the cells most affected by the aging process. Tsai Turton and Lorderer, in their publication in the journal Endocrinology, reported that evidence proves oxidative stress and inflammation induces apoptosis or cell death in pre-ovulatory follicles, and that the anti-apoptotic preventing cell death effects of FSH is mediated in part by stimulation of follicular glutathione and suppression of the ROS. Finally, the authors previously mentioned, Adeoye et al. Went on to state that glutathione may have an important impact on autoimmune issues as well. Glutathione is involved in regulating the genes and the production of cytokines that cause chronic inflammation. This may be helpful for those who are experiencing immunological miscarriages or if the body is rejecting the mate's sperm. So, finally, supplementation. So, supplementation of glutathione will support the pool of glutathione in a cell and thus maintain the efficacy of the entire glutathione system. So due to glutathione being broken down in the digestive tract into its amino bases and needing to be reformulated, oral supplementation isn't as effective to date. This is why we provide glutathione injection therapy at YINSTILL. Glutathione administration can be a standalone IV or a subcutaneous intramuscular injection, which are about 10-minute appointments that can be added to the end of an IV drip or acupuncture appointment. Generally, injections or IVs are recommended once a week for 8 weeks to start. Afterwards, patients may either continue with weekly treatments or move to a maintenance schedule based on their unique clinical needs and perceived degree of oxidative stress. It should be mentioned that better versions of liposomal, which means surrounded by fat, oral glutathione are being developed to improve absorption, and lipodermal, or through the skin, gels are also an option that we use for people that cannot get the injections. Although neither of these administration routes are as reliable as the injections. We also recommend that people ensure vitamin C intake is adequate, as glutathione and vitamin C work synergistically to help protect our body from oxidative stress and inflammation. Very important. And finally, we also suggest that clients concurrently stack N-acetylcysteine supplementation when working to increase their glutathione, as glutathione and overall antioxidant levels. Research has demonstrated that NAC, or N-acetylcysteine, is able to reliably increase glutathione concentration in cells. So finally, in summary, if high degrees of oxidative stress and inflammation and low antioxidant status are implicated in conditions contributing to infertility, and deficiencies of glutathione have been shown to negatively impact both sperm and egg quality, the fertilization process, and embryo development, and glutathione is the body's most powerful antioxidant, which also helps in preserving and recycling other antioxidants, then glutathione injection treatment strategies to boost the exhausted antioxidant defense of the reproductive microenvironment is intuitive. So again, in summary, if high degrees of oxidative stress and inflammation and low antioxidant status are implicated in conditions contributing to infertility, and deficiencies of glutathione have been shown to negatively impact sperm and egg quality, fertilization, and embryo development, and glutathione is the most powerful antioxidant, then glutathione injection treatment strategies is intuitive.